The Presidential Implementation and Advisory Committee for the Implementation of the Recommendations of the Reforms Committee on the Ministry of Defense and Armed Forces of Nigeria is recommending the integration of civilians into a new security architecture to address contemporary security challenges. The recommendation was highlighted when members of the committee, who are retired military personnel, paid a visit to the House Committees on Defense, the Army, Navy, and the Air Force in Abuja. Chairman of the Presidential Committee, Major General Alwari Kazir, retired, said the visit was an advocacy visit to the House of Representatives Committee on Defense. Major General Al-Wali says the national and global strategic environments within which the armed forces operate today have significantly changed in the last 2 decades.
The Ministry of Defense and the Armed Forces of Nigeria need to be properly organized, structured, manned with the required mix of military and civilian personnel, as is the global best practice in almost all countries, especially developed countries. Reforming the MOD and FN will also ensure that we have an FN that is affordable for the national economy, while sufficient in size, structure, training, and equipment to respond effectively to both conventional and asymmetric warfare.
He called for the support of the National Assembly for efforts to reform the Nigerian armed forces successfully.
The main purpose of the committee's visit is to praise honorable members of the work we have done so far and to solicit your support and wise counsel towards assisting our committee to successfully implement some of the key recommendations that will affect the structure, roles, functions, and management of the Armed Forces of Nigeria and the Ministry of Defense. Counseling is very important. As somebody said many years ago, a general in the field is of no consequence unless he has good counselors at home. In general, the reforms being emphasized for now are in 4 thematic areas: structure, roles and responsibilities of Ministry of Defense, structure, roles, and responsibilities of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, operations, training, and professional military education, and finally, logistics, budget, procurement, and research and development.
In his reaction, Chairman House Committee on Defense Jimmy Benson says the 9th House is committed to ensure that the military is well equipped to surmount the security challenges in the country, as well as strengthen civil-military relationship, which is on its all-time low today.
That the House of Representatives is deeply concerned about reforms in the defense sector. We believe that it is clearly one of the ways to improve the security architecture of the country. It is in this light that the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, set up a committee to organize a National Security Summit with a view to conducting a holistic legislative review of the national security policy, provide an avenue for robust conversation amongst critical stakeholders in the national security space, and make recommendations that will inform both executive and legislative reforms.
Chairman of the House Committee on Army and the Air Force says the reforms could not have come at a good time like now, as they stress the need to deal with the issues of overlapping mandates among security agencies.
We have what is called overlapping mandates now in the as it is in the armed forces. You find out that the armed forces have the right to protect our infrastructure. Yet we also have the civil defense, whose sole mandate is also to protect infrastructure. So we are going to do some legislative things that can avoid conflicts. We also want to look at the situation where there are joint operations. Who is supposed to take the lead in these joint operations?
The military themselves, they have an issue within the structure and the respect among themselves. That's fundamental for any survival of any country. That's one. Third is the understanding of the human rights itself by the military, by their training, by their command, by their order. They are just trained to kill, not to maim. They are there to respect the last order given to them. But by and large, by the reform generally, if they are meant to understand that respect for human rights, if you do not respect it internally, the global politics will force you to respect it.
The Joint Committee pledged their cooperation to the Reforms Committee while promising to take its message to the leadership of the House. Anita Patrick, Core TV News, Abuja.